Hey everyone, this is DJ.
And this is Ish.
And this is Season 5 of Pero Let Me Tell You. You know, everybody talks about like moving wherever. Have you ever heard of Bhutan?
Is that made of rattan?
No, Chico, Bhutan is by India and like...
No, I've never heard of it, clearly.
It's by India and like Nepal. Well, before we get into Bhutan,
yes.
Welcome everybody to episode 210, right? 210.
Yes, before we get into
Bhutan,
Bhutan,
Pero let me tell you, how is everybody?
Well, you know, it's Friday of a long weekend.
Oh, yes.
So
July 4th. Quick, like without thinking, how does the United States turn?
Oh, shit. I know it's over 200.
Yes, over 200.
I don't know.
246, man.
Oh, because, wait, 18. Okay, yeah. Carry the one. Right.
We'll talk about the happy birthday United States in a minute. How is everybody's week?
I thought you were gonna ask me like, what's the British, you know, the way the British people say, you know, July 4th, and I was like, Traitors Day, Treason Day,
Traitors. Happy Traitors Day.
Happy Traitors Day.
Happy Friday, everybody.
Yes.
Welcome to Pero Let Me Tell You.
Yes, welcome.
I want to say mejor pretexto para quedarse en casa. That would be Sábado Gigante.
I mean, Sábado Gigante's not around anymore, so I guess it could be us.
Right, but people don't listen to us at home. They listen to us usually in the car.
They listen to us wherever they feel most comfortable.
Well, if you want to be at home.
Yes. Maybe, you know what? Maybe we're listened to by many people like in a bubble bath. We don't know.
And where?
In a bubble bath.
In a bubble bath?
Yeah, you know how people take like bubble baths para descansar, para relajarse. You know, they pour their little glass of champagne, they get the bubbles all nice and going, and then they put on their ear pods and listen to us while they're relaxing in the tub.
Okay, sure. So, bueno.
We can be relaxing.
I think you and I are many things, but relaxing is not one of them. I think that this voice... my voice is not going to be used for ASMR.
No, mine either. No.
It could be for a game show host,
right,
or a talk show host.
For our many recorded sponsorships.
For breaking stories, right, but not for ASMR. No. I'm not going to eat fried chicken on... Mira, I get ASMR, and I've told you, I have some weird ASMR moments.
Okay.
Like, you know, I told you, I love to watch chiropractic adjustments.
That's right.
That really relaxes me. And I love to watch, I like specifically the chiropractic adjustments. I like to see people's necks being cracked.
Jeez
like,
Louise.
I love it. Like, because like I sort of
a horror movie-esque.
I sort of feel it. So I like watching that. And, you know, then there's other stuff. Like, I don't know. I like to see people making dough.
Dough?
Yeah. Like kneading dough.
Kneading dough. Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Like,
okay.
It's very relaxing.
I can see that, actually.
Yeah, dough.
There's no rush.
Right. And now, especially since the pandemic, there's so many dough making videos.
That's true. Everybody learned how to make bread except us. We decided to go into chicken wings, which were at a fucking scarcity.
Yes. What was it about making bread during the pandemic that people...
Maybe there was something...
Because there wasn't a bread shortage.
There was not a bread shortage. But maybe because, you know, think about it. Bread is warm. It's comforting. It's comfort food. You know.
I don't know. So are sausages. So are like...
I mean, I've never been... I've never been like, oh, I'm so agitated. Let me have a bratwurst.
So es una papa caliente.
Una papa rellena.
Oh. Anyway, oh my God.
Mind you, we just finished eating and we're like...
When I make real mashed potatoes, like mashed potatoes with like cream,
with like
butter,
right,
it's like, my God, it's so amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, in the everyday, like you're in your Tuesday night dinner, you're not gonna make a decadent mashed potatoes. No, it's gonna be like clog your arteries. Right. But like when you really make one, it's
like when we do Christmas dinner.
Oh my God. Anyway, let's talk more about Bhutan.
Yes, Bhutan.
Bhutan. You don't know about Bhutan? So Bhutan is considered to be... I know that they usually say that the happiest people on earth are in the Scandinavian countries, like Denmark, Sweden, Norway.
Right.
But actually, in a few surveys they've done, they found that the happiest people are in Bhutan. So Bhutan is a
It's located by India.
You've never heard it?
No.
Of it? It's like between China and I forget exactly. It's like Nepal and China. It's not like around there. It's by the Himalayas.
Okay, so like the spiritual corridor.
Yes. And the thing with Bhutan is that I believe it's a constitutional monarchy. So there is
A royal family.
yes, but there is also like individual freedoms, and it's a very simple life. People live very comfortably, not in excess, but very comfortably, and they've shied away from Western customs. Like, for example, there was a time there that there was like a Starbucks and a McDonald's open and all that, and they shut them down because they don't want it.
They made no money.
It's not even that they made no money. They didn't want it. They didn't want to
really?
be like westernized.
Okay.
Because they were very, they didn't want to add stress to their life. They were like, why do we need to have fast food? Like, we want to enjoy our food.
If there's anything more stressful than choosing a drink at Starbucks, I don't know what it is.
Don't even start me with Starbucks. But yeah, it's like, and they're so like concise about who they are and an identity that they only allow a certain amount of tourists a year.
Wow, really?
Yes, and tourism is like a major industry that they have, and they completely cap it because they don't want this influx of people coming in like in the summer and taking over and all that stuff. They don't want that.
They want to retain their
they want to retain
identity.
that. And you know that during the pandemic they shut off complete tourism, and I think the whole country had less than 30 cases of COVID.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Bhutan, look it up, people. Go to YouTube and look up Bhutan. Happy people in Bhutan.
Bhutan?
In terms of how you spell it, it's
Yes.
Bhutan.
Oh, okay.
Bhutan. So that's your learn part of the.
Well, there we go. I learned as well.
So
Did anything happen this week?
So I hope you had a good week. I had an okay week. I hope all of our listeners had a good week. You know who did not have a good week?
I have. There's just about 9 people who may not have had a good week.
Well,
week?
no, R. Kelly didn't have a good week. R. Kelly got 30 years in prison.
I forget how old R. Kelly is.
He's in his 50s.
He's 55. When I saw that, I was like, 30 years. He's 55, so that's a life sentence. I mean,
I didn't read
for all intents and purposes.
I didn't read if he would be eligible for parole.
But I mean, let's say he isn't or doesn't get parole. Even if he's eligible, doesn't mean he's going to get it. Oh yeah, he's getting out at like almost 90.
Robert is in trouble.
Yeah.
So what do we think about that?
Well, I mean, he's an interesting company because this week, Ghislaine Maxwell also got sentenced for something similar. So
she got 20 years.
So it's a good week for punishing sex offenders, I guess, is some positive this week.
His case, I've told you, we've talked about it ad nauseum, I guess, at this point in the podcast, although it's been a while. I think that the 30 years is fair. I think justice was served. I think it's very fair. My whole problem, I've always said it, with the R. Kelly scandal is people's selective outrage.
Well, why did it take so long?
Everybody knew who R. Kelly was from the time he married Aaliyah back in the 90s, and he was 29, I believe, or 28.
Late 20s.
She was 15. Everybody knew who he was. He never hid who he was.
And this was an open secret.
Yes.
Because nobody found out until...
Imagine that happening now?
They would have stormed his house and just tarred and feathered him.
And back then it was like, viste que Aaliyah está con R. Kelly.
Right. Yeah.
Right? And
but then again, this is, Elvis married Priscilla at 14.
Yeah, but we're talking about like the late 90s.
No, I know, but maybe there was still some
she was 14.
Remnant. Priscilla was a child bride, yeah.
And how old was Elvis?
That I don't remember. Keep talking and I'll look it up.
Sorry, when I think of Priscilla marrying Elvis, I think of that episode of Full House
where Becky
dressed up as Priscilla. Hey, she's like, "Is my beehive big enough?" But anyway,
he jacks it up.
And then in the early 2000s, I mean, when, as I always say, people are stepping in the name of love, he was...
Apologies. They met when she was a child, but she got married to him at 21.
Okay.
They were together
when he had the child sex scandal that it was
the tapes.
The tapes.
There was evidence
where he was peeing on these underage girls and having
Right.
sex with them. People were like too busy enjoying his new album,
Yeah.
which was pretty good, by the way.
Well,
but
be that as it may.
So,
But it wasn't something like hearsay. There was physical video evidence,
yes,
right?
and people didn't care,
Right.
right. And this wasn't generations ago. This was in the early 2000s.
like 10 years
so that's
ago.
why it kind of bothered me, that it's like, okay, wait, now it took a documentary to expose the R. Kelly, but R. Kelly has been in plain sight all this time.
The power of lifetime.
Like it's never been a secret.
Right.
So why at
now?
all? Because it's not like bueno, like let's say the Kevin Spacey scandal.
Right. That was always just rumors.
That was rumors. Nobody ever came up.
Right.
He was never charged with anything.
There was never any quote unquote proof.
It was something that happened like 30 some years ago.
Right.
But this R. Kelly stuff was more recent. It was in plain sight. People knew. So why were justifiably so that they were outright
Right, but why
outraged.
now?
But why now? Like this should have always been the case.
Right.
But
it's funny, you say, it wasn't that long ago, and you're right, it wasn't. But, as we've seen, just society mores have changed, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse, in, just the last 5 years, and I think there's also something to be said for, the advent of social media, right? Where it becomes more ever present. And again, this is for something that was always present, because, like, again, let's go back to Aaliyah. People were saying it while she was alive and on the radio. So it's not even que tú digas, bueno, after she passed away is when this came to light.
certificate. Like,
right, but what I'm saying is when she was alive, people knew. So it's tampoco no es que tú digas, bueno, después que ella se murió es cuando se enteró todo el mundo.
So let me ask you something, because this is something that people always talk about in cases like this of R. Kelly. I know what your answer is going to be, but
okay, but for the sake of
discussion.
Okay.
So I love R. Kelly because he's the king of R&B music. How do you feel about in a case like this? But it's true of many people. Do we cancel their product, their art, their what they're famous for?
Interesting question. It actually came up a couple weeks ago when I was a guest on the Shiver podcast, because we were talking about the movie Jeepers Creepers. The director and writer of that movie, Jeepers Creepers, is actually one of my favorite horror movies. It's a comfort food version of horror movie for me. But the writer-director of it was convicted of child molestation charges. Not innuendo, not like, 17, but no, it was like with a 12-year-old boy who was on the set of one of his other movies.
Oh, boy.
He was convicted. He went to jail. Like, this is somebody who, it's not innuendo. It's not, hearsay. And, excuse me, the question came up, which is, can you separate the art from the artist? And I think it's funny because for the first Jeepers Creepers, I can. Because the first one, it's the brother and sister. It's the scary boogeyman, supernatural, whatever. But he also wrote and directed the second one. And in the second one, the whole crux of it is that a bus full of high school students get stranded in the middle of the road and the creature comes and attacks them or whatever. But there's various moments there where I'm sure these actors were at minimum 18 years old, but they're supposed to be playing high school students. And a lot of the guys on it were like, is shirtless. Is various, states of quote unquote undress or what have you. And in that one, I kind of went the route of like, how much of this is just him trying to get his rocks off?
Right.
So I say that to point out that I am capable of separating art from the artist to a certain point. Because in the first movie, since there was nothing overtly sexual going on, I can just be like, yeah, he wrote this movie and this is great. But in the second one, even though there's no sex going on, there's a lot of sexualization, fetishization of, the male form and things like that, which normally I'd be the one who's like, wow, this is a real change of pace from your typical horror movie, which usually has the girl with her boobs out, right? So it's the flip of that. But because of who wrote it and directed it, I feel a little icky. So I think it comes down to the content that is being discussed.
Right. Is the content, do you think that there's a connection between this person's, problems, misconduct, issues do you think that influenced the art or
Right.
the medium?
Horrible example, but I'm gonna go with it. If R. Kelly had sang instead of TLC Waterfalls, I would totally think it was all about piss.
Oh my god! Wow, I did not.
But that's kind of what
So-
that's kind of what I'm saying, right? Where it's like,
you know what's so funny? The other day, this is a little bit different, but the same. I have that song on my iPod that I absolutely love. I forgot the name of it, but it's an old song. She's just 16.
I love that
years
song.
old.
That's
Leave
okay. That
her alone,
musically,
they
yes.
say.
oh
That song,
God.
"Take to the Night."
Yes,
Night,
yes.
Into
Into the
the
night.
night. I'll take you up. I'll
Yep.
take you.
I love that
into-
song.
That song is great. Have you seen the video?
You've told me about it.
The video is in the early 80s.
Right.
And it's about, he's like looking at it, looking.
So he's a peeper.
He's a peeper through her
He's a
bedroom
peeper,
window.
right.
And she's like, she's 16
and he,
years
and
old.
he tells you she's 16.
And-
Right.
And it's funny. That's a great song.
Right.
But like, that's what I think. It's like, okay, this song didn't come out 200 years ago. This song came out in the 80s.
Right,
In the early 80s.
right.
He says it. She's just 16 years old.
There's no
Leave her alone, they say.
misinterpretation.
Did anybody not think that was inappropriate at that time? Okay, yes, the song is a bop. Like,
Right. But it's again, it comes down to it, right? Like, if the guy who sang it had been 18 or 19, different.
Yeah.
Yes, he's still a legal adult, but it's different, right? Because it's like,
No.
well, they were still maybe in high school together or whatever. But no, he's not 18 years old when he's
that
singing the
was
song.
case there. I mean, look, I think that I think artists are just sort of like politicians. The perfect politician doesn't exist. The perfect artist doesn't exist.
Well, because we're all
I
flawed
think you have
human beings.
to take them flaws and all. Although these are huge flaws.
Yes,
like,
but
this isn't. You have a temper.
Right, but we're all
This
human
is-
beings.
You're a
Right,
rapist
right.
and a child molester, right?
This is the other
These
extreme
are
of the pendulum,
huge
yeah.
flaws.
Yeah.
But I think that to a certain extent, I can separate the art from the music. I understand the criticism, especially if it's somebody who's not incarcerated,
Right.
that maybe is accused of all these type of things, that if you keep buying their records and their music and going to their concerts, in the case of a musician,
Right.
they're still profiting.
You're
from that.
justifying, yeah.
So I could understand that argument, but notwithstanding that, I can separate the art from the artist
To a degree.
To a degree. So I like R. Kelly songs. I've never cared for R. Kelly the man,
Right,
Aside
right,
from the
right,
sex
right,
scandal,
right. His image was never really...
right. But I do like his songs, and I mean they're already in my iPod. So in my iTunes.
Yes, and that took you forever to upload.
It took me forever to upload. You know which song of his I hate though?
I Believe I Can Fly.
Oh, I hate it.
That doesn't surprise me.
I hate it. I hate it so much.
More or less than Gotham City.
I hate it more than Gotham City because that song was more popular.
Okay,
and
all right.
it was on everywhere when it was popular.
That's true. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, but I actually, I hate that I'm going to admit this on our show. I sort of like Trapped in the Closet.
Parts 1 through 8.
Yeah, like
Now he's just trapped in the jail cell.
yeah, he should make an anthology.
He
of that.
should make an anthology of that.
I mean, look, it's one of these things I don't think it has a right or wrong answer.
No, and again, everybody's mileage varies. You know, there and you know, I would absolutely understand if someone who has been the victim of sexual assault has a certain reaction and cannot separate art from artist, right?
Right.
Like if somebody has certain experiences that just prevent them from an emotional level making that distinction, that's absolutely understandable.
Yeah, no, it doesn't have a right or wrong answer. I think it depends on the person. It depends on the allegations. It depends on the art. It depends on the subject of the art, right? Because again, if R. Kelly talked about,
if he's saying she's just 16 years old, leave her alone, they said.
Right. I could see the video.
He's talking from experience.
Right. It wasn't like, my 16-year-old crush,
Right.
Whatever. This is like totally off topic, but I don't know. Have you? Okay, actually, wait. let me rephrase it. Let me
Okay.
go back. So this week on CBS Sunday Morning,
Oh, drink.
I thought this was hilarious, right?
Okay.
Because in the last like couple of years, I mean, it's not me. You know that Africa by Toto has had
Yes.
this resurgence
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
online that it has like 1 billion views and like over 1 billion streams.
It started about
on
like 5 years
Spotify.
ago or so. Yeah.
But this past few weeks in particular, I've had the song on like replay or
Okay.
repeat. Y dio la casualidad that this week on CBS Sunday Morning, they did a whole like thing on Toto, right?
A whole like feature.
feature on Toto.
Okay.
Right? How they are the coolest, uncoolest band. Like
Okay.
uncool band, right? Because they were never like cool.
No, they were never
But
hip,
look
yeah.
who laughed last.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Right? So what do you think about like a song like Africa? And for our listeners who don't know, it's that song I lost the rains
Down and
down and
Out.
out. That's a song that came out in the early 80s.
Yeah.
And it was a hit. A bona
was
fide
huge.
hit
It was huge,
in its
yes,
time.
yes.
I remember when we were kids, that song was still kind of in its last
Yeah,
legs
yeah.
of like.
But I can't ever remember anybody being like, dude.
But then that
I
song,
love Toto.
That song completely went away.
Right. And
Like,
for the most part, Toto.
for like 25 years.
Right.
And then like 3 or 4 years ago, the song had this resurgence. And it's so funny because in the CBS Sunday Morning profile, they're on tour.
Oh, they are?
Yeah. And they filmed, there's shots of them in a huge stadium. And everybody's jamming to like Africa. And I'm like, pero... And I'm one of those people because I didn't care for that song either. I completely fell in that rabbit hole. Like now I love the song. It's in like my playlist. So what do you think about something like that? That like
Well, I just wonder if they sing anything else or if it's like when Loco
they sing
Mia
several
would go
songs.
to
they
Siempre
sing,
Domingo.
Rosanna, need you all the way.
Oh, that's them too. Okay.
Rosanna, yeah.
Yes.
They sing actually several songs that are.
Oh,
famous.
okay.
They're not
okay.
a one-hit wonder.
I didn't think they were a one-hit wonder, but I honestly, off the top of my head, could not think of another Toto song.
And Rosanna is about Rosanna
It is.
Arquette.
She's got like 2 songs about her.
What's the other song about her?
There's another song that's about Rosanna Arquette. Don't ask me what it is right now, but there's another song.
Need you all the way. Yeah, they have several songs.
I think it's great. I mean, listen, maybe Toto called up Kate Bush and gave her some tips.
Yeah, I was telling you before we started recording. I'm like, you know who's had a good year? Kate Bush.
Kate
Those
Bush,
royalty
yes.
checks from Stranger Things.
Yep.
That
And there's just it's just funny how you really can't predict these things.
right, but the Kate Bush thing is really interesting because yes, it was on Stranger Things, which is a popular show.
But there's other
and
songs
especially-
también.
especially popular with kids. But that is not the type of kid song. Like I could understand if like.
if
I don't
Adele
know.
covered it.
No, or if like it would have been, I don't know, Material Girl by Madonna.
Okay, because that's more of a poppy sound.
That's more of a poppy sound.
Right.
That, even though it's an old song, younger people can relate to. But Kate Bush
Yeah, running up that hill.
with like 12-year-olds, like, I mean,
Yeah, I could not have. I don't think anybody had that on their 2022 bingo card.
it's like you don't know because, like, for example, who would have ever thought? And you and I have not on the show talked about this several times. Like even Tristan is obsessed with it. Rickrolling people.
Who would have thought Rick Astley? That would be his
Never
second
gonna give
second
you
life.
up. Never gonna. And it started as an internet meme, and now Rick Astley is on tour selling out stadiums.
Yeah, because of a meme.
A meme.
Right.
And now it's given a whole life to a bunch of other people, like
Yeah.
a whole generation.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we're not even talking about songs. It's not like somebody who's a teenager now is discovering Britney Spears, right? No,
That makes me sad, but yes.
this is like whoa, like
And we're not even talking about like to use your Madonna, right? Like Madonna, who's still around for all intents and purposes and whatever. Rick Astley doesn't put out new music, so tampoco it's not like he's. If it wasn't for the Rick roll,
yeah.
would we still know
Don't
Rick
you
Astley?
know I would move heaven and earth to be together forever. I'm one of the few people that liked his other song, "Cry for Help."
I don't think I know it.
All I need is a cry for help. Somebody. No, that was like his other album when he wanted to go alternative. Never mind.
Oh, that was like the sophomore slump.
So yeah, but man, I love Africa. Gonna take me a while to get away
That's just
from you.
it's just such a pleasant
There's
song.
nothing that I
Mira, that song that's like ASMR before ASMR.
I lost the reins down in Africa.
All right, well, we don't have to pay Toto too much, so.
Right, I mean, no. It's so funny when I learned that I always wondered why on sitcoms they wouldn't sing happy birthday.
Oh, yeah, because of the royalty.
Or they'll be like, happy...
And then something would happen.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
And it's like, why does the birthday song have royalties? It's like, I imagine that the person who would hold like the copyright to the happy birthday song is there sitting in their money like, ha 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 ha.
The funny thing about that is I'm pretty sure that's a scenario where it did not have a copyright and
Somebody bought it.
Somebody bought it because you know that, I mean, those things only last for 100 years.
Right.
So by now, I would have imagined Happy Birthday would have been in the public domain. But No, I'm saying I would have imagined.
Were they singing Happy Birthday to You in that melody in the Gilded Age?
Maybe. I don't know. I wasn't there.
Maybe in The Great Gatsby.
Yeah. Like, maybe he invented it.
Yeah. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. We know things can feel overwhelming, from jobs to family to relationships, even finances. And despite the stigma from Hispanic families about airing our dirty laundry, we can all use someone to talk to during those moments of stress. Well, we're here to remind you that there's no shame in admitting that you need to speak with someone to work towards improving mental well-being. That's where BetterHelp comes in to, well, help. A customized online therapy provider, they offer therapy options on your time, whether it's via phone, video, text, or even live chat sessions with a therapist. BetterHelp's customized approach matches you with a therapist in under 48 hours, based on what you're experiencing to help you better understand yourself. And as a special offer for Pero Let Me Tell You listeners, you can get 10% off your first month of professional therapy at betterhelp.com/pero. It's already more affordable than in-person therapy, and now you can save on your first month. Everyone deserves to be happy, and BetterHelp has helped millions take their first step on that path. That's betterhelp.com/pero. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this podcast episode. So, okay, bueno, let's get to a more heavy subject because...
Did something happen this week?
Okay, so
it's hard?
You know what's so funny? Remember last week when we recorded?
Yes.
We even made a reference how we're like, oh, it's
The sun
weird
is
that we're
out.
recording earlier because
Yeah.
we recorded earlier in the day, and I think
Right.
you even said like, oh no, something big is gonna happen, and then
I hope
the show's gonna be stale.
In our defense, the big thing that happened on Friday, so we would have still been,
Right.
behind the eight
So
ball.
okay, so yes, so Roe versus Wade got overturned. So let me ask you. So obviously we're going to talk about that, and let me ask you because
Although we've kind of already talked about it in the sense of when the leak came out. I mean,
right, as not a legal head like me, you know, that finds this stuff fun. Not overturning Roe. I mean Supreme Court cases.
you love overturning precedent. Don't lie.
What does this mean to you? What doesn't it mean to you? What do you think it's significant, or what is your take on it?
I think that, again, also, I mean, as somebody who does not have a uterus, I will not be having an abortion anytime soon, one way or the other. I think what it says to me is that things that we took for granted as enshrined as policy are not so. It brought up to me a couple of things, and not just about Roe versus Wade per se or the decision, but it also got me thinking about things that I have to say I didn't put much thought into prior, such as, I know it's a lifetime appointment, but is it really fair, quote unquote? I mean, that's a charged word in and of itself, to have people in an appointed position with a lifetime of power to make decisions when they, are quote unquote out of touch with, or they may be out of touch with what's happening. I, for one, I'll tell you right now, I'm looking forward to retiring at 65. I am not trying to keep working until I drop dead. And that's what these judges, that's what some of these judges appear to want to do. It demonstrates to me, it's a Domino effect. That's what domino effect. Where you've got this overturning, and then you've got Mr. Uncle Thomas, Supreme Court Justice, saying things like we can then look to overturn the decisions that are about gay marriage or contraception and things like that. And it's like, well, I mean, he really did forget to include the decision about loving. Yes. Yeah. But that doesn't strike me as odd coming from someone who doesn't give a flying fuck about anybody else. And how people have just they don't we've said this before, we live in an age now where because of social media, everybody's just like, fuck it. And when you've got I forget the crazy bitch's name now that was like, this is a win for white life, and you have this other asshole responding to Barack Obama's tweet with whoa, what about Plessy versus Ferguson next? And it's like, what the fuck is wrong with you people?
Right.
Because now we're not even talking about your typical Alex Jones pundits, right? We're talking about fucking people in government,
right, saying
this shit.
Right. So there's a lot there for me to deconstruct.
Yes. So feel free to take your time.
So let me tell you something really interesting about Clarence Thomas. Again, I enjoy reading Supreme Court cases, and earlier this week on my Instagram, I actually posted. You saw the post. Mm-hmm. For those of you who don't follow me, it's DJ Borges 19.
Well, I reposted it as a story to
on ours.
On ours, yes.
Right. Yes. That, and again, it's not to make myself sound smarter or superior, but I did study law, and a huge part of studying law is reading Supreme Court cases, because not only do you take a whole year of constitutional law, all the other cases that you take, whether it's property or obviously con law or contracts, they're all case law.
Well, it's all based on precedents.
Right. It's all case law. So when you are in law school, by the time you graduate, you have read hundreds,
whether you want to or not,
hundreds and hundreds of Supreme Court cases. Not only have you read hundreds of Supreme Court cases, you know the Warren Court, the Cardozo Court, the Marshall Court, the Roberts Court, the Rehnquist Court. You know the different iterations of the Supreme Court, right? Because there are different phases and eras of the Supreme Court.
Of course,
right?
as
so
government
you know
changes.
that, right? So if I'm explaining something to you that this is how it works, you don't have to agree with my point of view insofar of what
your opinion,
my opinion of something like abortion, right? But if I'm telling you, hey, this is the framework of the Supreme Court, and this is how case law works and legal precedent works,
right?
Don't tell me, no, that can't happen. That can't happen, right? And the conversation that I was having with a lot of people was that when you read a decision like in this particular case, it's Dobbs. This is going to be now the Dobbs case that overturned Roe v. Wade. It was based on the rationale of the court that the original ruling of Roe was not a good ruling insofar that there are certain things in the Constitution that are not explicit, and therefore the states should have a bigger saying in those freedoms.
So the rationale is that unless something is explicitly stated in the Constitution, the Constitution cannot guarantee it.
Right, because
in a nutshell.
Yes, that's actually a very good nutshell, because the biggest philosophical difference between the purist of the Constitution, like an Anton Scalia, who was a purist of the Constitution, and a more progressive or liberal justice, is that the purists of the Constitution see the Constitution verbatim. This is what's on the Constitution.
Anything outside
it's
of this?
Static.
Okay.
Whereas a more progressive, I don't want to say progressive as a political stance, but a more liberal interpretation of the Constitution is that it's a living document
and can be adapted.
Right, that we need to go within the spirit of the founding fathers or the drafters of the Constitution.
For the times,
because there's a lot of things that are not in the Constitution. For example, marriage. Now, we're not even talking about gay marriage. We're talking about to a man and a woman. It's not the Constitution.
Right.
That was derived from case law through the right of privacy.
Right.
Right? So it's not even that, like, a lot of things that just regular everyday people, freedoms that they enjoy, are from legal precedent and case law that the Supreme Court ruled, generations ago,
Right.
that are things that are not explicitly in the Constitution.
Okay.
Right. So when you're overturning case law that is 50 years old because the rationale is a legal term that you have to know how to properly use.
Okay.
Right? When you're overturning case law that's 50 years old with the rationale that because it's not in the Constitution, it should not be federally protected or constitutionally protected, and insofar the states should have the authority to regulate said right, in this case abortion or a woman's right to choose, right? You are now opening the door to further legal discrepancies on other things like equal access to marriage, or as Clarence Thomas wrote, even contraception, or even because what people have to understand is that the way that, for example, we're not even talking about now same-sex marriage. We're talking about being homosexual, not it being illegal, was through a Texas case, which had to do with sodomy.
Right.
That
because it was anti-sodomy laws on most.
Right. There was anti-sodomy laws
of most states.
So it was a Supreme Court case that said, through the act of privacy, through the right of privacy, which is in the Constitution, we can say that adults should have the privacy in their home,
to do whatever they want.
Right. And that's how same-sex. Now we're not talking about marriage. How sodomy or anti-sodomy laws were deemed unconstitutional. So that's why I explain this to people. When I'm telling you that from a procedural standpoint, this is a nightmare, not only for abortion, but for all these other things.
Right.
Okay. Don't fight me and tell me, no, that's not going to happen. No, it can.
It can. It might not.
Because 10 years ago, no, not even 10 years ago, for many decades, people are like, no, Roe's never going to get overturned. Well, guess what?
This week is over, yeah.
Here we are. And this is what I explained to people over and over again. If I had a magic wand, and I'm a liberal and I'm a progressive, if I had a magic wand, I would not have 9 liberal justices on the Supreme Court, or 7 liberal justices, or even 6 of them. The Supreme Court justices, it's a delicate balance, right? It can't be one or the other. It can't be a gross disproportion of one or the other. It's a very, very, very delicate balance, because once the Supreme Court gets it right, the biggest advancements in our country socially have happened. But when the Supreme Court gets it wrong, like the Dred Scott decision, which is infamous, that's when they deemed that the Dred Scott decision was a pre-Civil War era decision that the Supreme Court stated that slaves, so in other words, African Americans, black people, were not deemed 100% like a person.
Is this the Three-Fifths Compromise?
For tax reasons, right? So they weren't seen as completely like one person. So if you had 3 slaves, you didn't have equivalent to 3 people.
You had 1 person.
Right. You had
3 equaled 1 or whatever.
There was a formula, right? That was the Supreme Court who ruled that. That wasn't, the governor of Alabama or a southern state. No, that was the United States Supreme Court.
That said
so
that was
they
okay.
have gotten it wrong. It's been disastrous and catastrophic. That's why the balance of the Supreme Court, I can't stress this enough, is very delicate. So it's not about getting the people that you want on that court that are like-minded to you. It's about having a balance on that court where the justices are a true representation of the different facets of our country, right? That is what the Supreme Court should be. And I always say this over and over again. I think that in the current court, a perfect example of that is Chief Justice Roberts, who actually, he is considered to have voted to overturn Roe, but not really. Because
what do you mean?
So Justice Roberts,
He's the one that kind of vacillates a little, right?
Roberts, historically, that's why I find him fascinating, and I love to read his opinions. Justice Roberts, for example, was brought in by Bush, so he's quote unquote a conservative judge or justice, and he, for example, he ruled that Obamacare was constitutional. And a lot of people are like, oh, but he's a no, he's not a conservative justice.
He's a Supreme Court justice.
It's what I always say. Right. Justices in the Supreme Court are supposed to be at the peak of jurisprudence. These are not people that should be political, puppets.
Right.
They are at the peak of jurisprudence, so they should see something for the merits.
Right. And the fact that they're appointed for life should weigh on that.
His opinion, actually, in this particular case was that he kind of hedged in the middle. He said that, in other words, that states should have a say-so in how they want to regulate abortion, but that Roe should not be overturned. Because overturning Roe would have a greater effect.
Okay, the ramifications.
Exactly, the ramifications would be much greater than
Roe.
Than what we've been
dealing
one
with
case under Roe.
Right.
So, because he sees the
That's
argument of both sides.
Interesting, though, that he wrote that opinion.
Yeah,
yet...
but even if not, it wouldn't have made a difference.
I understand. But
the magic number is always 5.
No, I know, but I just think it's interesting that he wrote that opinion and yet went the other way. It just I just find it interesting.
Even if he would have even written like an opinion striking down the Dobbs case, it still would have been 5-4.
No, I get it, but I'm speaking about him specifically, not the ruling.
Funny thing about Clarence Thomas. So Clarence Thomas, in the last few years, has been very vocal, right? Do you know that Clarence Thomas went 14 years without speaking in the court?
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because he didn't. He just didn't speak. And when I mean speak, I mean
in terms of writing opinions, and
not only writing opinions, even asking questions. Because when a Supreme Court case is heard, the entire transcript is public record.
Oh, okay.
Right, and the justices ask questions.
As you should.
So that's why a lot of times, especially for like landmark cases, you'll hear reporters or people that are in the courtroom hearing like, oh, the justices were asking.
Oh, okay. Like they have transcripts.
These type of questions, and they were questioning this and whatever. And Clarence Thomas went 14 years with not only not writing any opinion, but not asking any questions. But now all of a sudden, he became very chatty.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That is very interesting.
It's really odd. And to talk about something else that you said, which a lot of people have been talking about now, about not having lifetime appointments for Supreme Court justices, that's very tricky.
I'm not even saying not having it. I'm just saying, like, yo, you got a lifetime appointment, but don't you at some point want to just go fishing?
Right.
Like,
but remember that these people, the Supreme Court doesn't work 8 hours, 8 hours a day every day.
Yeah, but like,
from Monday to Friday.
Yeah, but still,
but
like,
these are people
you're
that
in
are
your 80s. Like,
these are people that are dedicated to their craft, and like their legacy is very important, right?
Whatever.
But not having a lifetime appointment for a Supreme Court justice is very tricky, because although
I don't know if that's the answer either. But.
So although Supreme Court nominations have become extremely political in the last few years, it's only been in like maybe in the last not even 10 years, and maybe in the last, I would say they got political
8 to 10.
They got political when Justice Scalia died and Obama nominated Merrick Garland, and even though Obama had, I think, 9-10 months left in his presidency, the Republicans said, nope, we're not doing confirmation hearings, because we're not. Right. Even though that's in the Constitution, that the sitting president gets to pick a nominee, and confirmation hearings will commence shortly thereafter. Right. The Republicans were like, nope, we are not doing that. And boom, Trump got to put 3 people in. Right. And the lifetime appointment thing is very tricky, because the problem is that if you have term limits on Supreme Court justices, you know when their term limits are up. So then that means that
You kind of hold off on.
well, no,
cases.
is that, for example, if let's say now the next general election is in 2024. So if we know that in 2025 there's a Supreme Court vacancy that's going to come up, now it becomes political.
Okay, which is what it shouldn't be.
Now the candidates are going to be like, there's a vacancy next year, and I'm going to put in a progressive,
Okay.
or I'm going to put in
So
a
it
conservative.
fundamentally changes the way that the court should function.
Right, because especially with it would be a general election with the president. If there's term limits, then the president's part of what they will run it on is filling
the seat.
filling a seat of a Supreme Court justice, because you know that if you win
You have
those
that.
4 years, you're going to have X amount of vacancies. So that's what makes it a little bit complicated.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's why we. Again, even though it's become political, it shouldn't be political, and making term limits will certainly make it even more political. It's a clusterfuck.
Okay, no, that's
It's a
fair.
clusterfuck.
That's fair. That's a fair assessment.
So, well, that was our.
Yes, that was fun.
It's always fun to talk. Well, I think it's a lot of
It's
fun.
always
to
fun to talk about Supreme Court and
Give me
abortion.
Supreme Court trivia any day.
Yeah.
Ooh.
For the record, that will never be a topic at
Under
trivia
Oh,
because
what?
nobody will get it. But
What
your
do you
fan
mean?
club.
We know. We have a lot of people that are regulars at our trivia now that I think would get Supreme Court trivia.
It's not the norm.
Oh, why do you have to ruin everything for me?
Maybe I'll think about it if we're still doing trivia during election year.
Oh my God! Do you know what I saw this week? This week on online, and I was like, oh my God! I gotta at least briefly mention it on the podcast. Do you know what else you could use Vipaporu for?
What?
Removing your henna.
Oh,
Yes, so actually it's dual purpose for henna. If you put in a little bit, just like rub it in a little bit, you can change the color of the henna.
oh, okay.
It could become like richer and darker, right?
Mira pa
But
allá.
then if you add like more Vipaporu and like una esponjita
It goes off.
and water, it takes it off.
Mira pa allá. Ay, mira, nadie se viva por I finally watched Father of the Bride.
But wait, hold on. And I'm thinking, you know how they probably rediscovered that?
Cubans.
No, because Cubans don't get henna. But you know,
Oh, I can see a Cuban being like,
no,
"Que henna
but
ni henna,
somebody, who's Indian or maybe in India,
Right.
they had their henna going on, and maybe they had a runny nose.
Oh.
Y se estaban poniendo Vipaporu. They're like, oh, it
That's
came
true.
off my finger. Like, oh, maybe I'm onto something here.
So, I'm picturing it as somebody who's like maybe 16 got home with it, and here in Sweetwater, and their parents were like, "Te me quitas eso ahora
Que henna,
mismo."
que henna. But
And
it's not permanent.
no me importa, eso es de la gente esa la Wicca, no sé qué cosa, and then
Yeah.
and thus
And there goes the henna.
how we found out.
cultural-
But yeah, no, I saw Father of the Bride last weekend because I needed something to perk me up. And it's funny because there's like a couple of scenes where la abuela character like takes Vivaporu like out of her bag
Right.
a couple of times. So I was like, okay, all right, I see you. I see what you did there.
Yeah.
It
Very well
was
played.
it was very well played. It was actually a very cute movie. Very, very well done. I'm just glad to see finally we have a movie set in Miami that doesn't think Miami is Miami Beach.
Right.
Like, I think a good like third of the movie takes place at Domino Park.
As it should.
And like on Calle Ocho and Cuba Ocho, and it was just a fantastic little movie, and it was fun, and you know what, I enjoyed it. I recommend it. Just putting it out there.
Good.
So, speaking of Vivaporu and doctors and all that, so I today I went to an appointment with with an orthopedic surgeon about my shoulder. We're trying to figure out what the hell's wrong with it. And I spent the entire time that I was sitting in the waiting room texting Jose because habían una pareja y una señora who had like
Okay. Give us the room.
the room. It was a very, very it was a very bare room. Like it was just your typical waiting room. But the thing is that there's two doctors there, so one doctor has one window and the other doctor has another window. The other doctor was not there today, so everybody who was there today was just for the doctor that I went to. Which, funny enough, his first name is also Ismael.
Oh, wow. wow, that doesn't happen every day.
At all. So I get there. I sit in like the corner. It was myself, this other señora who she had like a burrito, this other couple, and then this other couple that was by the wall that I think they were a little bit more americanizado because he was wearing a shirt that said adulting, and then underneath it had like the stars from like a Yelp review, but it only had 1 star and it says do not recommend. So that to me says somebody who's, you know, a little...
Eso puede haber regalado el hijo.
That's true, but he just seemed a little like not, you know, that degree of viejo. So I get down and I you know, I sit there. I'm waiting for my call, for him to call me in, and the one pareja y la señora con el burrito are going back and forth. And the first thing that I literally hear them say is que ya no hay ningún hospital que sirva.
Oh yes, of course. I love that talk.
But what I loved about it is that the señora who said that not only gave all the examples of all the hospitals that she's been in South Florida and why each one was
what
bad.
Was her wrath, especially to Kendall Regional? Because I feel
she didn't mention Kendall Regional.
She didn't.
She did not. But she did say...
Larkin Hospital?
I'm literally going through my texts here. I was texting Jose the entire conversation. So she says... Wait, hold on. She says que el mejor hospital en Miami en este momento es el Jackson. And the reason she says...
Never heard that before.
And the reason she says that because this is great. Ella trabajó en el Jackson en el 75, cuando todo el tema eso de los morenos fajándose y se sentía muy seguro ahí. And I was like, this is wonderful that you've just said that out loud in public.
Right.
And nobody here has batted an eyelash. No, not at all.
Wait, where was your doctor's office at? Was this in Little Havana?
No, Sunshine. This is Cruzar Kendall Drive y la 117.
Wow, okay.
This is like 6 blocks from here.
Okay.
Okay. And then la otra está hablando de que ella le tiene un terror pánico a todos los doctores. Like, she's really scared of all of them. What was it? And then they all noticed something that I only noticed because they brought it up. In the corner of the room on a little table, there was still a little miniature Christmas tree. And they were like, imagínate, por lo menos lo que pueden hacer las muchachas que trabajan aquí es quitar el arbolito este. And I was like, you know, they're kind of right. I mean,
Were they making like a relation to the leaving the Christmas tree up to like the standard of care?
Yes, exactly. It was on that level. But then, weirdly enough, and I even took a picture of it, on the little counter where you log in.
I want to see the picture of it.
Where you sign in, there was a poinsettia thing. How is that? We're in July.
Okay, wait.
How is it that red?
Were they real?
They were real.
Where did they get this?
I don't know. But
this looks like fresh boy.
But they were okay because the las señoras were
did
like.
You step into like a time warp and did you go back to December, or are you in December 2022? Are you in the future? Did you step into six months in the future?
I should have warned you.
Because here's the thing. I'm looking at the picture right now, listeners.
I'm gonna post it.
It's a fresh poinsettia bouquet.
Yeah.
Right, because the thing is,
and here's how I know it's real too. Because if you look on this side in the back, there's one of them que está un poquitico machao.
Yeah,
like a
so
little.
Those are real.
Those are real, right? How?
Because even
it's 4th of July.
Because I've kept these after Christmas, and sometimes they last a little bit longer.
But they last till like mid-January.
Most.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
Especially if you have them indoors.
Right.
Because then if you plant them, I've actually even planted them.
Oh, that almost makes it worse.
Yeah,
they almost die quicker.
No, well, they grow, but the green grows. The red.
Oh, la flor. Yeah,
yes.
yeah. There's no flower.
Okay, this is like this is boggling my mind. Did they go to like the Christmas Palace in Hialeah where they have year-round Christmas decorations? Maybe they have year-round poisonettas.
Maybe.
Isn't that a great word for
that is
poisonetta?
A great word.
In Spanish, it's mata de Pascua.
Oh, it is? Oh, they don't call it I don't know.
What do you think they call it in Spanish?
You know what? I've never heard it.
Other
than flor de Pascua. Yeah, but I've never heard. You're right. I've never heard.
Nobody says una poisoneta.
No, because in English you don't say it's a Christmas flower.
Okay, this is like really boggling my mind. The Christmas tree obviously has an answer, but a fresh, bundle of poinsettias, a poinsettia in June, July. Wow. Maybe they have like a greenhouse or something. Like,
Somebody has the ultimate green thumb in that office.
yeah.
Hand.
That's quite something.
But yeah, so
So wait, did they make a comment about that?
So they did, but they were okay with that because they were like, bueno, pero las flores, bueno, porque las flores son lindas, tú sabes, eso se puede quedar ahí el año entero. And I'm like, but that's just not biologically possible.
So I think that what you're saying is, because remember a couple of months ago, I made a comment about my doctor's office visit where the white lady made a comment
about the mask, the Hispanic kid.
Yeah, the fucking Hispanic not wearing.
Right.
I was like, excuse me?
Right.
So, and this lady was talking about Los Moreno.
Right.
So, from what I'm gathering is that waiting in a doctor's office brings out the racist in some people or the racist comments.
Apparently. But she was great. I found out so much about this one woman. Mira, the husband that she was with is her second husband. She's had 2 knee operations. She lived in New York. She worked in New York. She lived in New Jersey at the time. She also lived in California. Now she is scared to go back to California, but she hates New York. And it's like, I know so much about her and I don't even know the woman's name.
That's great. I love it. I love that. I live for that.
I'm telling you, I was texting Jose. I'm like, y ahora dice esto, y ahora el otro. And then so the one lady with the burrito, this was her first time at the doctor, right? So she went in, and when she was coming out, the other couple that was still there, like the guy with the adulting shirt, was like, oh, ¿cómo te fue? Whatever. And she's like, no voy a regresar, no me gustó.
No te gustó.
And she just left out the door. I was like, you know what? That's the perfect ending to this whole, like, just put a bow on it.
I love it. There is a pleasure that I get, especially when you're at a store or something,
right.
A Walgreens or a CVS, and like the older Cuban lady, she's had it. Like they're always in a bad mood. Like, oh,
I had to exist today.
Oh, ay, esta está jodiendo con los cupones. Or, oh, esta quiere 2 pomos de Suavitel y no encuentro el código. Mirta, ¿cuál es el código del Suavitel?
Pero the other day, when we were doing Pim Pam Pollo at Unseen Creatures, which July 2nd at J. Wakefield, we're doing another one, guys. Hope to see you there, starting at 7. I was with the 2 bags of ice at the register. El señor in front of me had finished paying, and then he was telling la cajera, no, los tomates cobró whatever, $2 y era $1, whatever. She didn't direct him to go to customer service or whatever. No, she grabbed the tomates out of his hand. It was me, and there were people behind me, and she decided that she was going to go to produce and confirm the price.
I love it. I remember a few years back, I was at the Walgreens in Hialeah on 49th and 16th. Everybody knows the one that's now next to Chick-fil-A. And they had just gotten like a new cash register system. Right, that's obviously computer-based. And the woman's name was Mirta. Mirta's one of my favorite old Cuban lady names.
Yeah, it doesn't exist anymore.
Mirta was not having the new system. And I remember that she could barely get through it. And I don't know, the lady in front of me had some issue. And Mirta's like, ay, que me parta un rayo, Dios mío, dame la muerte. And I'm like, ay, Mirta, you're so dramatic. It's only,
But I feel like if your name is Mirta, you have to be dramatic.
It's like, Mirta, it's only like, you need just a little bit more training. Like,
It's just one more day.
Just a little bit more training. I mean, I know that technology is harder for some people, but
after a certain age.
But I love it. Like, I live for that. Sometimes I'll just like walk around and
in the hopes.
Yeah, no. Or when I hear like
you go closer.
I'm like, oh, I'm here looking at the Snickers. No, I'm not. I'm trying to hear what.
No, you're looking at the Neutrogena wipes.
Yes, the Neutrogena wipes. Yeah. Yes, I love it. I remember a few years ago, I was actually at the Mattress Giant in Hialeah on 49th and actually the same shopping center the Walgreens is at, and I was buying a bed frame.
Okay.
You know the metal bed frame for under your box spring?
Most simple thing in the world.
I just wanted the bed frame.
Okay.
Right? And then, obviously they take your driver's license, I don't know, put you in the system. Ay, tú tienes el mismo cumpleaños de mi hijo. Ay, son casi de mi edad. No, porque mi hijo se divorció. Porque imagínate que la mujer que tenía, yo siempre dije que esa muchachita no me gustaba, pero no era ahora, no está trabajando porque tiene mucha depresión. Porque tú sabes que yo le digo a él que no, que los matrimonios tienen de abuela y mala, porque mira, una vez el marido mío fue infiel conmigo, y que es el papá de él, y mira, no, yo amo, mi marido es tremendo marido y tremendo padre, pero no fue un momento que metió la pata y ta. And then somehow she started talking to me about refrigerators. The Kenmore brand of refrigerator. No, porque mira, el Kenmore de Sear es el mejor, pero tú sabes que ya Sear está cerrando, pero mira, el Sear que está aquí adelante en Westland Mall, yo fui ahí y compré el refrigerador. I'm like, this woman told me her entire life story, from her son's divorce to her son's divorce and unemployment,
and depression,
her husband's infidelities, and the fact that she likes Kenmore refrigerators in 5 minutes. Like, she said it in one breath. And I'm like, can I have my driver's license back? But in the meanwhile, I'm enjoying the ride.
If that's not a Tinder profile, I don't know what
I love it. I love it. It's like, wow. Yeah. Like, why do you feel you need to tell me this? But please tell me more.
Do you think it's something that with our faces that people just feel like they can, or that's just them?
That's just how they are. My mother is like that. Look, my mom is like that, but not publicly. I've always said that my mom, especially when I used to do litigation, that I used to have to prepare people for a deposition, my mom would have been my nightmare.
Oh, she would have gone off
right? Because when you're being deposed,
yes or no, stick to the
your answer should be either yes or no,
or concise
3-word sentences.
Right? How many times
Subject,
did your car
verb,
get hit?
Period.
Twice. Right.
No comma.
Right.
My mom, I could just imagine them asking, so ma'am, how did that accident happen? Like, if it, the case of like a car accident. Bueno, mira, es que yo me levanté porque, mira, tenía que comprar leche.
Y empezó mal.
Tenía que comprar leche. Y ya yo le había dicho a Roberto que faltaba leche, pero él no fue a comprarla. So yo tuve que ir, después que fui a caminar, porque yo todas las mañanas camino, tuve que ir a Winn-Dixie, porque la leche del Publi no estaba bobo o no estaba en venta. So tuve que ir al Winn-Dixie, de que está ahí en la 117 y Bird Road. Pero cuando voy a Winn-Dixie, vi que los aguacates también estaban en venta.
This is coming out of your mouth too easily for it not to have been a story she told.
Right. Porque los aguacates estaban en venta. Y tú sabes que los aguacates están en venta, hay que comprarlos, porque hoy en día todos los aguacates ninguno sirve.
That's true.
Porque yo no sé dónde están trayendo los aguacates.
They're like, ma'am.
Los aguacates, no, my mom's like, los aguacates los están trayendo de China. Porque like, she'll say some stupid shit like that.
Porque tú sabes, después del COVID.
Porque los aguacates no sirven para nada. Entonces, mira, yo ya que estaba ahí, estaba haciendo los mandados. Like, and the question is, how did the accident happen? Like, that would be my mother. Like, that would be my mother. She'll tell you one time she took her blood pressure medication. Like that would be, I've always told her, I'm like, you would be a nightmare. Like, you would make me jump out the window if I was like your attorney. And there's a lot of people like that.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
There's a lot of people. I'll never forget the one. This lady that had, this was early on. This lady that I had, una vieja cubana también, that they were just taking a simple testimony of hers. And this was for, this had to do with her injuries. And the woman did have injuries.
Right.
Like, it wasn't
so
like
it was a legit case.
Trying to make up shit,
Right.
She did have injuries. And all she needed to say on the record what her injuries were. Like, look, I still have problems with my shoulder, because I remember it was a shoulder injury. So, like, something as simple as getting the plates from the cabinets.
Day-to-day function.
I have some pain and some discomfort, whatever. And when they started asking her about that, she got nervous, and she thought, I don't know why she thought this, because she was prepped, that the questions were a judgment on the doctor that treated her.
Like he wasn't doing a good job?
Right. Was like it was more like to get dirt on the doctor that treated her. I don't know why she thought that. Again, she was prepped. That she... When they asked her how she was doing, she said, yo me siento excelente. El doctor es una maravilla. Es un dios. Yo me siento como... And there I am like, oh my God. Yo me siento como nunca en mi vida. Como si tuviera 15 años. I'm like, oh my God.
Torpedoed the whole case.
Oh my god.
That's it.
Oh
Done.
my god. I'm like, but you legitimately have pain. Like, why
Right.
are you saying this? And she's on the record.
So
right?
yeah.
So, and I'm like,
Yeah.
And I'll never forget when it was over, she's like, tú me dijiste, ¿verdad? Que tuviera, I used to call it diarrea de la boca, right? She's like, tú me dijiste, tuve diarrea de la boca, ¿verdad? And I go, no tuvo una, tuvo 10. I was like, if we got a $500 offer, that'd be like,
I'll take it. Just run. Run with it.
So, but I love it. Like, I love it. I live for those type of stories.
Ay, Dios mío.
So, yeah, the Mirtas are the best.
They are the best. Bueno, are you ready for a last soda?
I guess we are.
Well, I mean, are you? I mean, you look a little. You don't look parched necessarily. I mean, we just finished eating. You know, you had a beverage.
No, go ahead. You can start.
All right. So I actually don't know. I'm vacillating between two. On the one hand, there's somebody who's all up in TikTok. On the other hand, excuse me, there's one about a planet.
I think we should go with the planet.
Well, I'm going to go with the planet. So it was recently discovered that the planet Jupiter eats other smaller planets.
That's awesome.
According to scientists. Basically, we know that Jupiter's like 10 times larger than Earth. It's twice the size of all the planets in the solar system. I mean, it's huge. It's got double the gravity. It's a dense and dry atmosphere. There's a freaking dot on its surface that is basically a storm that's been raging for centuries. So, you think you have a bad day.
On Jupiter?
On Jupiter, there's barely a storm that's been raging for centuries.
Is it wrong that Jupiter reminds me of Tori Amos? Hey, Jupiter.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing's been the same, so are you
Bueno.
gay?
But
are you blue? Thought that I could... No, we could...
we're going to have to pay so many royalties this episode. If they ever come for us, we're just going to be like, I don't know what you're talking about. But apparently, the reason it's that size is it has been gobbling up other smaller planets. So they found that it probably has like remains of other smaller planets hidden inside. There's a theory that says Jupiter was born out of other planets. So you know what? I'm going to give my last soda to Jupiter because I like anything that decides, you know what? I'm hungry and I'm just going to go for it. Like Jupiter would be my ideal buffet companion.
Jupiter?
Well, I mean, 8 planets. All I eat is, brisket.
Wow. We've never given
to a celestial
soda
body
to a planet. I mean, I thought maybe you would give it to like Planet Fitness, maybe, but not
no, because I only go to UFit, which is where my trainers are.
Yes, we love UFit.
Actually, I've lost 2 extra pounds than I usually lose this week, so thank you,
Wow.
Mario.
Thank you, Mario, and thank you, UFit.
But yes, I'm going to give my last soda to Jupiter because, you know what? I just like the idea of this planet being out there gobbling up other planets. And quite frankly, si las cosas siguen como van on this planet, you know what? Feel free to have us as part of the meal.
No, but we can't go to Jupiter.
No, but it'll gobble us up.
It's a
So,
gas planet.
but it'll gobble us. We won't have much say in the matter.
No, but it'll be a while.
Hurry up. We're not doing any good jobs here.
Wow. So on that note, I'm going to give my last soda to Radio Shack.
Oh,
Did you hear everything that went down with the Radio
about
Shack?
the tweets?
About the tweets? That was freaking awesome. So
I only saw the headline, so
So
feel
for
free.
those of you who don't know where Radio Shack is, so Radio Shack was a shack that sold radios. Now it was a store that until a few years ago was around that it sold electronics, but it sold like amplifiers for your antenna. Right.
I feel like they sold a lot of remote control cars.
Remote control cars. They sold a lot of cables.
Yeah, you always went there for cables.
Which I remember one of the last times I went to Radio Shack, I bought a cable to connect my iPod to my car, and I remember it had a lifetime warranty. So I wonder where I can go now to
Tweet them.
that.
Tweet them.
Yeah. So anyway, and I still use my
The
12
connector.
Connector. What is a 12 ping adapter? Whatever. But Radio Shack has been defunct for quite some time now, but somehow its Twitter was still around.
Well, because it still does e-tail.
Well, but now this week it started like tweeting stuff and going viral. They were like, we're crypto as fuck. So now they've sort of come back to life as a cryptocurrency, I don't know, retailer. So I'm like,
A hub or something, yeah.
I'm like,
But did you see what the tweets were?
yeah. They were like, they had bad words.
They were like they were X-rated essentially. It was like stills from like, porn and
yeah, they were
NSFW.
right. But people thought that the account had gotten hacked.
Nope.
But they purposely did it to go viral. So, whereas we always talk about the fact that you can't predict what's going to go viral,
right.
I think the fact that somebody did this to the Radio Shack,
Yeah.
yes, I think that person deserves a soda.
They do. They knew something was going to come of it.
Yes, something.
Yeah.
And we're talking about it on our podcast.
We certainly are.
So bring back Radio Shack.
I think that ship has sailed.
Really?
I think a lot of what Radio Shack could do, we just do with Amazon now. Like, think about just like all the cable.
So,
things like that.
I've said this. I'm not much of an Amazon person. Like, I still go to the supermarket. I don't have Amazon stuff coming to my house all the time. I enjoy going to the store. Mm-hmm. But with that said, what I do buy on Amazon is anything having to do with, like, my phone. Phone cases or cable. Los cable are always cheaper.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. What that's what you would usually go to Radio Shack for.
My chargers, all that. I do buy on Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't beat the price. I mean, say what you say about Bezos and Amazon, but you can't beat the price.
Yeah. And protein is really cheap on protein at C4 is really cheap on Amazon.
Is it really?
C4 is.
Oh, okay.
But the problem with C4 and me is that I get a tolerance to C4 in like 2 days.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. C4, whatever. We could have this discussion off air, but for a pre-workout C4 is good. I'm not saying it's
that's
bad,
what I use.
But when you're really into heavy lifting, C4, you need something stronger.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough.
One time I took one called Redline.
Oh my God, that just sounds dangerous.
Yeah, and I was like shaking. I was like, I think my heart is going to be outside of me, and I think this is not what you're supposed to be feeling.
That is not good.
But man, that day I was on fire. I was like,
you were lifting a Buick.
I was like, my PR? What PR? Like, dale, put 3 plates on each side, And I was like, yeah, okay, we shouldn't do this.
We're gonna scale it back a little bit. Yeah,
we shouldn't do it anymore. So anyway, with that said,
well, before we log off though, quick reminder again. I know I said it earlier, but this Saturday, July 2nd, we will be at J. Wakefield Brewery in Wynwood, starting at about 6:30, 7 o'clock until we sell out. So hope you all can make it out to see us. Obviously, we'll be posting about it on Instagram. And I also want to give a shout out to our fellow Geek Bro Network, host, Neri Sands. Neri is a stand-up comedian. He's actually doing a headlining set on July 7th at the Miami Improv at 8 p.m. So Thursday, July 7th. We're going to see if we can make it out there because, Thursdays is our fake Friday. So, it's going to take some potential coordination, but, just check it out. We'll post the flyer on the Insta as well.
Neri is some funny people.
I personally think that if Neri is going to be headlining, I think that he should double people's fun and do Neri and have your mother.
Bring my mother Neri.
And have, just have her come out on stage and not even, just maybe have her react to things he says.
I'm telling you,
that alone.
I want to have a thing of my mom and Neri riding cars.
Neri and Neri drive.
Neri and Neri driving, because as you listeners remember, my mom loves the car show.
Yes.
So this year, hopefully, I'm going to take them to the car show
Let's
again.
figure this out.
But this time, I'm going to tape it.
Yes, we'll get Darwin to go so he can film it.
Yes.
Yes,
so my mom,
this is a production, kids.
My mom loves, mira, me encanta Navigator. Que carro.
The funny thing is, though, it's almost like, how before...
And I've shown you the pictures of my mom in the cars.
No. But what I'm thinking is, okay, how like before you bring a baby home, if you have dogs, they tell you to bring the baby's blanket to have the dog sniff it or whatever. I feel like before you launch Neri on your mother at the car show, they're going to have like a pre-meeting.
Right.
Because if not, she will not feel comfortable enough to desarrollarse.
I'll tell my mom, permiso, voy a cocinar algo en la casa.
Right, and Neri will be here.
Neri comes, and they have the same name, so that's the icebreaker.
Right. There has to be a level of comfort, because if not, your mother won't be on.
No.
The same way.
Well, the beauty of my mom is that she has to be on without being on. Because my mom is not on.
No.
My mom is just my mom.
Pero no, she won't feel comfortable in front of Neri. Right.
So for her to say stuff like, estos aguacates no sirven.
Exactly.
Aquí no hay un aguacate. Or lemons. ¿Tú te has fijado que los limones hoy en día no tienen jugo?
She's not wrong.
She's like, compré 5 limones y ninguno tiene jugo.
She's not wrong. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Oh my God. One of the funniest things of my mom the other day. I told you this story, but you know, my mom is very Mirta-like. Oh my God, the sky is falling.
Right.
So here in you know, for those of you who are in Miami, in Kendall Drive, you know, one of the main thoroughfares here in Miami, there's a Best Buy, and next to it there's a Michael's, right? And my mom the other day, she's like, ay, porque fui a Michael's, lo están cerrando y estaba todo en venta, pero ya no quedaba nada. Y yo entré a esa tienda que era tan linda, que era una belleza, con esos arreglos florales y todo que había de la casa. Todo estaba desbaratado, no quedaba nada. No, porque es tiempo en que estamos viviendo hoy. Ya nada importa, a nadie le importa nada. Todo es una basura. Esa misma tienda tan linda, tan bella como era Michael's, cerrando porque ya no va a quedar nada. No, el futuro es muy feo. Es muy feo. Yo no quiero ser parte de este futuro. Este futuro como una tienda como Michael's. Imagínate, ya no va a haber Michael's. I go, bueno, mom, they're moving across the street. And she's like, oh, bueno, yo no sabía eso. I'm like, they're literally moving across the street to the shopping center, to a bigger space. Where Bed Bath & Beyond was closed.
Yes, yeah.
Where Bed Bath & Beyond was, that when it closed, my mom gave the same speech. Just swap out Bed Bath & Beyond with Michael's. But I knew where that conversation was going, so I let her
because at this point, you know where the gold is coming.
I let her go.
Yes.
And she's like, ay, no, porque ya no queda nada. And I'm like, well, you know, they're moving across the street to a bigger location.
She's like, oh, never mind.
Oh, okay. Ay, qué bueno. Well, on that note, everybody, we hope you listened, laughed, and learned. I swear I'm going to do everything in my power to get my parents somehow
We're gonna figure
on the
this out.
show, even if they don't know about it.
We're going to have to, like, set up the microphones, like, under blankets or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, as everybody, we hope you listened, laughed, and learned. And as always, remember to grab your croqueta, your pastelito, and your cafecito. And thank you for joining us so much. That was episode 210. Have a great 4th of July, everyone.
Yes.
4th of July weekend. Happy birthday to America. How many years again?
Shit, you said this at the beginning. 246?
Yes. To believe that in Que Pasa, you say they talk about the American bicentennial.
That's true.
Yeah. It's in the episode where they got robbed.
No, isn't that the citizenship?
No, because in the episode where they got robbed, they talk about doing something about going to Venetian Pool. And they're like, no, we need to go to the beach. We haven't been there since the bicentennial.
They talk a lot about the bicentennial, though, because they also talked about how Violeta's mother did the Freedom Trail on her knees for the bicentennial.
Yeah.
Después de que se hizo ciudadana. That's why they do mention it in the Ciudadanía episode.
Yeah, so anyway, have a great weekend, everybody. Happy birthday, America. 246.
Yes. 246. That's a lot of candles.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Pero Let Me Tell You is co-hosted by Darian Borges and Ismaeliano, produced by Ismaeliano, and our theme, Pero Let Me Tell You Freestyle, is composed by Michael Angelo Lomlaplex, the official gay guy. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes.